So not only can appearances depend on the hosts, but they can also depend on the purpose for which the alien was created, such as we see with ants in our own reality. We have drones, we have warriors, the Praetorian, and the Queen, which all have distinguishable variances to their appearances. All in all, the bodies are extremely lean. There aren't many signs of the biology holding fats. They all have long bladed tails with claws on their hands and feet. The actual numbers of fingers actually vary from movie to movie, as do the legs, as we can see digitigrade and plantigrade legged aliens, as well as the arms actually appearing thicker in the Aliens vs. Predators movies, to better balance them out as an equal opponent of the Predators. The large domed head with an unseeable eye, again varying back shapes. And then we have lines of metallic sharp teeth, which are covered by lips. And then the grand finale. Yes, the grand finale. The inner jaws, or the inner mouth. That's right, that little retractable tongue mouth that they have. Man, that could make a chameleon's life easier. Or not. I don't know. Let's create our own mutation. Sounds or language. Growls, shrieks, roars, and hisses. Growl, shrieks, roars, and hisses. Growl, shrieks, roars, and hisses. Okay, physiology and anatomy. Alright, so let's get deeper into this life cycle. That's what it's all about, the life cycle. Domination. Okay, so it usually starts with the queen laying her eggs, then those eggs hatch after who knows when. It could be a day, it could be 100 years from what it looks like with the layers of dust on some of these things. But once a possible host nears those eggs like a lovely human, they will open up and release that mobile sex organ called a face hugger. So then it'll face hug the other organism if it's big enough. That might be the issue with xenomorphs versus cats, as the cat's head is actually too small for it to grasp and hold. Maybe, and it's really fast. Who knows what the whole issue is with cats? Let me know what you think. Then the face hugger lays one single egg down the throat of the victim into the stomach. Now the stomach acids aren't going to destroy it. You have to remember that the species, or whatever this is, the xenomorphs are actually composed of blood that is completely acidic, much more acidic than the contents of the stomach. Once the creature hatches and gains enough nutrients from the stomach, it works its way up into the lungs, from where it then bursts out of the victim's chest. At this point, the xenomorph juvenile, the chest burster, is at its most vulnerable point. It doesn't look to hunt or battle, it just simply wants to escape and hide until it can molt and or grow into the larger xenomorph that it is to become, making its life's purpose to dominate and survive. The chest burster itself reaches maturity at, again, varying periods of time, depending on which movie you're documenting or watching. Is anybody actually documenting a movie other than I? It could take roughly from 1 day to about 4 days. At this point, I would like to point out some movie ridiculousness or monster conception silliness, because the chest bursters are never actually shown feeding. Maybe when they escape, they look for small creatures like insects and mice and rats to feed on, or they return to the host body. But this is never actually shown, and then within an amazingly short period of time, this creature becomes this enormous 300-pound xenomorph. Explain that. Actually, wait, let me get deeper into this and give you a better example. Prometheus. So the lady has a chest burster type thing in her body. It's actually more of a squid-looking creature, which she has robotically, surgically removed from her body. Then she locks up this little beastie back into the surgical chamber for quarantine and I think decontamination within a room that seemingly lacks anything biological. So later when we come back to this area of the movie, maybe a day, 2 or 3 later, we find this monstrous creature as it bursts out of the rooms with its many tentacles. I'm speaking a ginormous face hugger. So you tell me, how do we get something this little to turn it into something as big as a king-size bed, quadruple the weight? What is it, a fleshy balloon full of oxygen? Is it full of water? Is it about 90 or 95% water? What is this thing composed of? I mean, it's powerful, so it has to have protein. It has a powerful muscular structure. What did it feed on? Air? Why am I still wasting time at the gym? Matter does not simply manifest into reality. It is changed into different forms, as is the nature and the rules of energy. So how do we get something little like this into something huge? Can it really get enough nutrients out of oxygen? I mean, Alright, I stop. Okay, stop. Although this crazy manifestation of size without feeding makes more sense with the xenomorph structure being that really lean and, as we said, that fatless body consisting of a skeletal structure, inner organs, and outer shells and layers of skin. Alright, reproductive ability. Since this is such a highly and quickly adapting, evolving, changing creature, reproductive procedures can vary and progress. For example, the Alien actually has the ability to lay not a single, but several eggs into a host's body through the organ structure in its mouth. The Queen Alien somehow took upon Ripley's hybrid genetics to create a single baby out of herself, not an egg. Again, I'd like to hear details on that if you know some. So let's go further into the xenomorph, looking into the anatomy, more abilities, and strengths. The all-seeing eye. Are there multiple eyes under a shield on the alien's head? Or is it a single eye? Or, as I was thinking to myself, maybe it's a ton of rods and cones as we have in our own eyes, but divided into different sections in that membrane to create dimensions for the creature instead of everything being two-dimensional. Maybe it's a huge segmented insectoid eye like we see on flies and bees and praying mantises and all that good stuff. The brain. Well, we could say in general xenomorphs are a simple and instinctual beasts, managed only by the hive mind of the queen. But as we have seen, they have been trained and taught through cause and effect. As when the xenomorph would show aggression, the scientists would push on a big red button to give it a shocking freeze and hurt the creature. After that, it was much more cautious. But we don't stop there, as later the creatures figured out that their blood is actually toxic, and they sacrificed one of their own members, one of their own xenomorphs. They killed it, they bit it apart so that its blood would seep through the floor and destroy the bottom so that they could escape. After they escaped out of the containment, one of the xenomorphs observed as a soldier, security guy, a guy with a gun, went into the enclosure, and then it itself pushed that red button to freeze and break that human wannabe hero into tiny little bits and pieces. So you see, they are not as simple as we thought. They can strategize, and they are self-aware. They are self-aware of what runs through their skeletal structure. So I would say if it's inexperienced, if it's a young xenomorph, then yes, it is instinctual and simple and predictable. But if it's more experienced, watch out. They are ambush attackers, and if they see nothing to kill around, well, they just go into a suspended state of animation. Makes sense considering they don't eat much, or who knows if anything. They need all the energy, and just like a snake out in the desert, will lay without movement for days until something living approaches. So the blood, the acid, it seems to melt and burn through just about everything except for the xenomorph's own anatomy, and we can see that presented to us very nicely by a predator. Although this toxicity is extremely powerful, it does eventually run out of its potency and neutralizes. Also keep in mind, these creatures can spit this stuff out, so wear goggles. No, that wouldn't work. You're screwed. So the whole body is a weapon. We've got those powerful metallic teeth, the claws, spines all over it, the inner super speed, tongue mouth, the highly bendable and controllable tail with a huge sharp blade at the end of it, powerful muscularity for springy ambush attacks, a natural armor. And what's worse, you gotta be careful when and where you cut it, because you can't just slash at this with a sword or a knife, or just shoot it when you're standing close to it, because every little bit of that blood that gets on you is probably going to do lethal damage. Is this truly the perfect being, or at least the perfect warrior organism? It is durable. Man, it is durable. The only thing comparable to this is our Earth's water bear that can actually survive a little bit in space. Well, you know what? The alien can survive for prolonged periods in space, underwater. It can swim and even breed underwater. What is the gender of a general xenomorph? I consider them generally genderless, but they are referred to as drones, and drones within our own species are actually males. So are most of them males, and then every once in a while, when the species domination is weak and the queen sees that, a special egg pops out that is a female, that is a queen? That is quite possible with what we know of the queen. And diet, what do they eat? Well, we know it kills, and there's dead corpses scattered all around when we follow a xenomorph, but we never actually see one feeding on one of those bodies. And that brings us back to that whole silliness before. How do these creatures get so big so fast, and where do they get the nutrients from? Maybe their body, that black chitin-type stuff, is a really compacted shell of nutrition that provides the creature with life. We know they also create cocoons and stick victims in them for later breeding, but are they also for later possible feeding? Seems very likely. Alright, let's quickly run down through some of the weaknesses. As we've mentioned, if it's a young creature, it's going to be instinctual and therefore predictable. Does it have a sense of smell? Also, I could say it has one too many life stages. Kick out the facehugger stage and just give birth like the Predalien did, for example, laying eggs into the host right from its mouth. Or instead of the whole facehugger stage, how about it act more like an Argonaut octopus of our reality, where one of its tentacles can deliver an egg into a female, but can actually leave the male's body and slither around by itself. Therefore, we can have xenomorphs with detaching hands, hands that look like face huggers that jump onto these creatures and breed out. That would be a terrifying creature. Would it come back then? Would it be like a robot hand? Or would it grow another hand? Yeah. Anyway, abilities vary per host hybrid species, and the queen is a whole other case on her own. Talk about durability. We're leaping out of the weaknesses here, but she has the ability to actually tear herself away from her gigantic womb and detach herself and dash into a crazy killing frenzy. Alright, one of my favorites, the power level. 1 being that bug at the beginning of Alien Resurrection. A 5 being a good-sized demon. And a 10 an all-knowing, ever-existing being. We could say a 4 to 5, but with so many variations it's not fair, so let's focus on the drone and or warrior. I would give it a 4, maybe a 4.5. Alright, final thoughts. This is an excellent concept. It's intense, it's scary, with a biology with so many possibilities. It is the most iconic horror alien of Hollywood. Although we do need more answers, and we are told that they will come in the sequel to Prometheus, so let's be patient, see what happens. And if it already happened, comment down below. Maybe you haven't seen the movie yet. And remember guys, since there's so much to this lore, so many angles, feel more than welcome to request any sort of video on xenomorphs that you please. And finally, similar beasts. Well, we have the aliens from the movies Species. We have the Tyranids of the Games Workshop Warhammer 40k world. Zergs from StarCraft. The Bugs of Starship Troopers. And the Prawns of District 9. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Movie Monster Reviews Xenomorph. And again, if you want to hear more about xenomorphs, let me know exactly what you want to hear about. Otherwise, do let me know what creature, what movie monster you would like to see discussed next. And if you're new to the World of Monsters channel and you enjoyed what you saw, you love monsters as we do here, make sure you leave me a like down below and subscribe for more awesome videos, and we don't make any more awesome videos without your requests. So make sure you join with us, communicate with us, let us know what you want more of. Until next time, this has been Monster Master Arthur. Oh crap, I think it saw me. Let's see if turning the lights off helps. I may have to call my predator buddies to help me out.